Back and thank you for staying with us. Now, according to the quarterly labour force survey, the youth aged 15 to 24 years are the most vulnerable in the South African labour market, as the unemployment rate among this age was nearly 60% in the first quarter of 2020. Among graduates in this group, the unemployment rate was 33.1%. But there's hope, and it starts with education. Crowdfunding platform Feenix CEO Leana de Beer joins us now to explain why education lies at the centre of the battle to combat unemployment. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's just begin with your thoughts regarding why education is at the heart of actually combating unemployment. Why would you say education is still key?
Well, I think if you just look at the numbers that you mentioned now, although unemployment is very high for the youth in South Africa, unemployment for the educated grouping is sitting at 33%, which is about half of that same number for young people aged 15 to 24, which is sitting at 59%. So we see a direct correlation between someone that is educated and access to job opportunities.
Well, with that in mind, do you think then that there should be a direct connection between the content of the tertiary education syllabus and the skills needed to grow the economy, so that when these individuals graduate, they actually immediately are able to use their skills in a meaningful way to give back to the economy?
Absolutely. I think we need to look at skills gaps and start making sure that we're decreasing that. But it's very much a multi-pronged stakeholder approach. We need to look at how we're teaching and what we're teaching in the classroom. We also need to make sure that young people have the right attitude and adaptability. But we also need to make sure that jobs out there are geared. And if not geared, how can we transfer skills to ensure that young people are trained and are able to fill the gaps? Current trend shows, there was an increase in what we see in terms of trade jobs, mining jobs, and then the kind of skills that's needed, that's the most popular, the most in demand in South Africa at the moment. We're looking at things like medical and health. Of course, that makes sense because of COVID-19. But we're also seeing a demand in business management, logistics, manufacturing, as well as systems, networks, administration, ITC. So we need to make sure that we have enough supply for the demand. But apart from that, we also need to make sure that we are gearing for the future of work, and what does that look like in 5 years and 10 years' time? And that is very much digitalization and automation, and making sure that people have the technical knowledge and skill set to tap into that market.
Now, not all graduates are able to land jobs, as we've mentioned and looked at the stats earlier on. What can we attribute this to? And should there be perhaps more graduate programs in these industries that actually are in need of labor? Is there a bit of a gap between the employer meeting with the employee or potential employee that has the right skills?
Yes, absolutely. I think, like I mentioned, it is a multi-pronged approach. We need to make sure that if there is gaps in the market, there will always be gaps because things are changing quicker than education is able to adapt. That supply and demand is not always on the same timeline. But we need to have transferable skills. We need to have programs that cap that gap. We need to make sure that when you put someone in a job, then they have the critical thinking, creative thinking, adaptability to transfer skills that they learn in the education environment into the world of work. And that's absolutely doable through coaching, mentorship, the right postgraduate programs and the right graduate programs. And that's very much on the shoulders of government and also the corporate sector to come on board and say, how do we make sure these skills are transferable? But on the student side, I also want to recommend young people and students there's so many online free courses nowadays, to make sure that they are taking some of these courses, that they're trying to, if they can afford it, go onto the internet and try and find some of these transferable skill sets, things like design thinking, creative thinking, that they could potentially use to adapt so that they can tap into those gaps in the market.
So then I take it that continuous skills development then becomes a very important aspect of a person's growth, not only for graduates still seeking employment, but for professionals as well.
Absolutely. I think adaptability and flexibility is going to become more and more important for young people. In looking at the future of work, digitization, you need to be comfortable with technology. There are specializations that is very difficult to learn maybe on the job or learn in a quick turnaround, but there are ways of thinking and ways of approaching certain jobs that you could teach yourself, upskilling yourself, and being willing and able to adapt when that needs to be. We saw with COVID-19 now in the last several months in this country how quickly we all had to adapt to a digital world, and being able to work remotely, motivate yourself, being disciplined at home, and trying to learn the digital skills you need to access the jobs out there. Jobs like sales, jobs like technology, software development, logistics, retail. These kind of jobs are not overly specialized. You can teach those things through courses and through on-the-job training.
Do you have any recommendations of perhaps websites or institutions that viewers who are watching us now can actually visit to get to know what other courses they can take up to upskill themselves?
Yes, I think if you're a young person and you're eager to learn more, you can go to Khan Academy. Universities like Yale and Harvard have online courses for free. Udemy has courses for free. Code Academy are teaching young people how to code. These are just a couple of ideas for people to go to look for and go do some short courses online.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Leana de Beer, who is the CEO of crowdfunding scheme Feenix.